this video, I'll teach you about the Mughal court. The court of the Mughal was just like the court in the Sultanate period. It was very ceremonial and formal. The emperor sat on a throne and the others they were given a place. They used to sit and stand. And the people who were more important, they used to be near to the emperor. During the reign of Akbar, Sajda and Paibos they were performed, and Karnish was also performed. It was just a way to show respect to the emperor. And Taslim was also performed. What is Taslim? It's a concluding portion of a Muslim prayer that was performed as a way to thank God. Okay, and everyday reports were taken from the nobles and the departmental heads. They were read out to the rulers at any time that was assigned for it. And this whole meeting, where was it held? It was held in a hall of the private audience, which was known as Diwan-e-Khas. The emperors they held their court for the general public in Diwan-e-Am. And the emperors, what they used to hold? They used to hold this type of court for the general public in another hall. That was a hall for the public audience, and it was known as Diwan-e-Am. People could come here and they could put forth their problems before the ruler. So what people used to do, they used to come to this hall and they used to tell their problems to the ruler. When the emperor was away from his capital, his court moved with him, and whenever the ruler also went somewhere, his court also moved with him. During these times, the court was held under huge tents. And how the court was held? The court was held in a huge tents. You can see the picture of the court as it is given. In the 17th century, the court was divided into two groups. First group was liberals and another group was known as orthodox. Since Jahangir and Shah Jahan, they were the tolerant rulers, the liberal group was dominant in the religious matters. Under Aurangzeb, the orthodox groups they had upper hand. Means because Aurangzeb he was an orthodox. Okay, that's why under his leadership orthodox groups they were being supported. Moving ahead, now let's see how was the administration. The administration in the Mughal Empire was a mix of Central Asians as well as Indian tradition, and the power was in hand of the emperor, that means the king. Okay, central administration means when the whole power is enjoyed by the king himself. The king was the head of the civil and the military administration, and there were some officials who used to help him. Who were those officials? First, Wazir, who was the prime minister, Diwan, who was the head of the revenue department. Then there was Mir Bakshi, who looked after the military. Then Khan-e-Zaman, he attended to the need of the people who were royal. Okay. Then Sar-e-Sadur, he used to keep a record of any kind of donations and the aids and the grants which were being given by the king. And the last was Qazi. Who was Qazi? He was the main judge in the administration. Next is provincial administration, which means how the management and control was done in the provinces. As the entire empire was divided into the province, and each province was called Subas. Each Suba was headed by a governor who was known as Subedar. He was a link. Link means somebody who is connecting. Okay, so he was a link between the province and the ruler. Each Suba was divided again further into sarkars or district, and each sarkar was divided into parganas, and each pargana consisted of many villages. The kotwals they used to look after the administration in the town, and they used to perform both the works, police as well as the duties of the civil services. Okay, and they also used to catch the criminals. They used to keep the law and order. They were supposed to keep a list of the people who were living in that area, and also they were having a check on the weights and the measures that were being used in that town. His office, means the office where Kotwal used to be there, was known as Kotwali. Kotwali, even today we use this word, it means the police station, which we call Kotwal or Kotwali. Next topic that we'll study is revenue administration. Now, what is revenue administration? Revenue administration means keeping a check on how the revenue was being collected. What were the ways of earning the income? There were two main sources of income. First was land and second was trade. Akbar carried out many reforms in the land revenue system. Means Akbar brought about many changes in the land revenue system, and during his reign there was his finance minister Raja Todarmal. He introduced the land revenue system, and that land revenue system was known as Todarmal's Bandobast. Please underline in your book, name the important revenue system that was introduced by Raja Todarmal during the reign of Akbar. Answer is Todarmal's Bandobast. Now, what was this Todarmal's Bandobast? Under this system, land was measured properly. Earlier, the land was measured with the help of a rope, but the rope shrunk when it was dry and it stretched when it was wet. Okay, so the measurement used to change. But Todamal, what he did, he introduced a new measuring device. What he did was that he took a rod that was made of bamboo reeds. Okay, and he joined them together with the help of the iron rings, and with this the land was measured, because they thought that it would be more accurate to measure the land with the help of these bamboo reeds. After measurement, the land was divided into three categories. What were the three categories? First was good land, second was average land, and third was bad land. The revenue was fixed on the basis of the fertility of the land. Revenue, I have already told you, means income. And income from the land, how it was fixed? It was fixed on the basis of the fertility of the land. In the year 1580, the system that was called the Sala was introduced. Now, what was this system? Under this system, the average produce, whatever things were being produced from the land, and the price over the last 10 years were calculated. Means in the last 10 years how much production was done from the land and what was the price of that produce was calculated, and the tax was paid for the year was fixed on the basis of its average. Okay, average was first calculated and then the tax was calculated. Generally, the one third of this figure was the share of the ruler, and out of this, one third was the share of the ruler. The emperors, they encouraged both the types of trade. What were the two types of trade? First was internal. Internal means domestic trade, when the trade is carried out within the country. And overseas trade means when the trade is carried out between two or more countries. India exported many goods like textiles, spices, indigo, and saltpeter. What is saltpeter? It was a kind of a powder which was used to produce the explosives, and all these were exported to China, Central Asia, and Europe. Now we'll study the army administration. The Mughals introduced the Mansabdari system, and what is the meaning of Mansab? It means rank or a position. The position that was given to the person was called Mansab. Mansabdar was the person who held a particular rank. His rank determined his salary and his military responsibilities. This means whatever position the Mansabdar held, that only determined that how much salary he used to get as well as his responsibilities. The ranks of Mansabdar was divided into two categories. First was Zat and other was Sawar. Zat was supposed to determine the number of soldiers under him, and Sawar, he was supposed to determine the number of horses he was expected to maintain. Now the Zats, they were ranked from 10 to 10,000. Those Zats who were above 5,000, they were given to the princes. Now, how was the salary fixed? They were given their salary in cash, but how it was given to them? By assigning them a zagir. Now, what is zagir? Zagir is kind of a revenue that was generated and that was being assigned to a mansabdar. The taxes from which was equal to his salary, means whatever taxes were being generated from the land, they were being given in the form of salary to the mansabdar. He was expected to collect the revenue from his jagir, and with that money collected, he has to maintain his household and pay his troops. Means whatever jagir the mansabdar was getting, with that money he was supposed to maintain his own house, as well as he had to pay to the army troops that he was maintaining. Mansabdars were promoted and demoted, and they were transferred according to the wishes of the emperor. Means it was on the emperor only who used to decide that to promote which Mansabdar, to demote which one, and to transfer which one. His rank was not a heredity, means it was not passing from one generation to another. And when the Mansabdar died, his Jagir was taken away from him and it was given to someone else. So, this completes your army administration. Moving further, we will study about how was the agriculture during the time of Mughals. You know that the land was the main source of revenue because land was used for doing agriculture. Whatever revenue obtained from it was used to maintain the large army and huge administrative apparatus and for the upkeep of kings, nobles, and jagirdars. Means whatever money in the form of tax which was collected from the land, that was used for the maintenance of the army as well as for the upcare and the take care of the kings and the nobles. The rulers, they tried to increase the productivity of the land. Means the rulers, they made all the effort to increase the production of the land, and for this they also gave the loans to the peasants, to the farmers, so that they can buy the agricultural tools, they can buy good seeds. Rulers, they also encouraged the peasants to bring more land under cultivation by exempting them from paying the taxes on such land for few years. Now what the rulers did, they used to encourage the farmers so that they can bring more and more land under cultivation, and they also exempted them. Means they said that they should not pay any tax on such land for few years. Means they were allowed, farmers were allowed that they could continue the cultivation without the payment of tax for few years. Most of the peasants, they lived at the subsistence level. Subsistence means they were just able to fulfill their basic needs, and they paid 1/3 of the total produce as revenue to the tax, as a tax to the emperor. Means 1/3 of the production from those lands was given to the king in the form of the taxes, and this also increased to half also, but at the time of natural calamity this was reduced. The peasants, they had a hereditary right to cultivate their lands. Means the peasants, they got this right as a hereditary right. Means as one peasant died, his son could get the same right to cultivate the land. They could not be evicted as long as they paid the revenue. Means this right was not taken from them as long as they were paying the taxes on those land. But as the demand for the revenue increased, this resulted that many peasants, they became landless because they were not able to pay the taxes. So many of them had to give their lands because they were unable to pay the taxes, and they began to work on the land of the zamindars for wages. So what they started, so they started working on the land of the zamindars in return for the wages, and this produced very alarming consequences in the later years. Means in the later years this proved to be very alarming situation. And this completes your chapter, the Mughals. I hope you all have understood the chapter, children. Thank you, children.